Welly, welly, well, well. Here we are after some time away and a few other endeavors, and it will be time to engage a test in progress, if you will, of a cigar that we encountered and cigar maker that we encountered at TPE 2022 or TPE 22. And as usual, we'll try to incorporate a little bit of the old with the new. In this case, this will be an older version of well, let's see if we can get it to pick up. An older version of a V-cut cigar, here we go, cigar cutter made in Western Germany. So some time ago, as you can well imagine. This cutter brought to you by, well, me, and completely manual, clips open and cuts, and actually quite phenomenal little cutter in its time. And in reference to the cigar in question, we will be talking about the Lucky Cigar Shop, Lucky Cigar Company, King Solomon. And again, let's try to get some focus. Try to be focused. The King Solomon, it's a long, I guess you would call that a figuro or a torpedo, and made by the House of Lucky Cigars out of Florida. Outstanding gentleman that we met during that visit, and we were fortunate to get a few to test over time. You'll notice that this, I don't know what to call it. It's not a it's similar to a barbershop wrapper, but as you can tell, almost like a Damascus, I would call it. Almost like a Damascus wrap. At least I think that's what I would call it, and I believe that I may have even mentioned that, to Mr. Cohen. So, with that said, we will endeavor to persevere and fire this up. You'll notice again, completely individual wraps, very unique to each other. They're not, probably no two is exactly the same, much like a Damascus in a blade or a Damascus metal. So with that said, we will get started here in just a moment, and again, kind of endeavor to persevere. And of course, we want to make sure that we make a good selection, and focus. Get our little travel humidor closed back up, tucked away a bit, get some coffee ready, and prepare for the cut. We also have some interesting pieces from Decaston Designs. He's a knife maker and a gadget maker, and we've got a nice little surprise to unveil during this test in progress. Now, with a pointed torpedo type end, in my experience, a V-cut can sometimes be a little difficult, and here we go. Very good. Actually, not bad little V-cut there for me juggling camera work, etc. And again, the Damascus-like wrap on this wrapper is, by all appearances, at least to my eye, pretty darn unique. Getting into the light. Now, Decaston is utilizing a Prometheus Design Works PDW titanium lighter that we picked up during a similar event, or an event during close in proximity to when these cigars were picked up. And what we've done, we can see here that we've got the PDW design on the back or on the bottom, and Decaston Designs did their own exterior etching and anodizing of our very unique and characteristic character, a CC, a characteristic character, which, frankly, I kind of felt drawn to for some unusual reason. But as you can see, there's different levels of anodizing there for different colors. The toad or the frog is kind of a bluish, greenish, almost turquoise color, whereas the frog that he's riding, I believe that's a frog, is almost gold. and vice versa here. His attire is kind of greenish. So what we did is we were actually able to make it work. And I don't know, this is in all cases with the PDW lighters, but we were able to remove the traditional Zippo style flint lighter with lighter fluid and incorporate a Z lighter which is butane. So a little more on that in just a moment. So now, just for the sake of getting things lit, as we would say, we have our V-cut. And this was just charged. I haven't even tested this lighter just yet, but it's got two torches on the inside. And yeah, we've got ignition. So this was a little bit of a shot of faith. Obviously not a whole lot to get started. Give it a little puff. Personally, I like to just puff that out in case there's a chance that any gas was able to get into the roll. And wow, initial puff is quite good, quite smooth. The draw, is very smooth and not too tight. I don't think we've got a very tightly rolled or an overly tightly rolled cigar here on the binder, or I'm sorry, on the filler in the binder. So yeah, actually I'm quite impressed. So while we're doing that and letting that kind of marinate a bit with the flame, we'll get a little coffee in. Dark coffee, not quite Cuban, but got a little spillage going on there. Not quite tight enough. Yep. The main cap was not quite completely tightly on, so we'll have to deal with that at a later time. We are getting a little bit of an odd burn there. And that might be my fault in some way, shape, or form. I'm willing to accept that. There's always sometimes a little bit of a touch-up involved. Or it's not unusual, let's say, for a little touch-up to be involved. So, well, I was wrong. This coffee is a little lighter than I expected it to be. I thought it would be just a bit heavier, a bit darker, a bit stronger. But, being that as it is, looks like I'm beginning to even out the King Solomon from House of Lucky Cigars. We'll set this aside just a bit. Or at least try to. And getting back to decast-on designs, another interesting little tool that he has built is a small knife. It's a bit of a flipper and a bit of an automatic, but it is, of course, because of the length of the blade, the shortness of the blade, quite legal in almost all jurisdictions, including California. You'll notice a bit of a similarity on the design of our character, which I found very compelling. And in this case, the activation button is up here. It's a bit of a toggle, and revealing this quite interesting blade. It's I don't know if it's a reverse etching or exactly the process. I believe that we discussed it with Cast-On at the time. You'll notice his rocket design, or his rocket logo, which I find equally as compelling as the great discussion that we had. And again, this is some type of a reverse etching of some type. The blade is a liner lock, closes quite smoothly, and again, Activates by a bit of a toggle. And, you know, just a nice gentleman's pocket knife for the office. Wearing a suit, the weight is very, very light. And, you know, again, I just found it just a very, very, very compelling little design. Bit of a, you know, I guess you could say just a bit of a toy, quite frankly. In addition to that, he is quite the designer, and he gifted us, I'll say us because, you know, it is kind of us in a way. He gifted us you know, we've all heard of worry stones, and in this case, I guess you could call it a worry disc, even though, what, me worry, what, us worry, and it's a copper disc with the design, which again I find so damned compelling. He only has the D on the center there where you would have your observation porthole, if you will, and like the fact that we've got a couple of little flames there at the bottom. It looks like we've got 3 little flames at the bottom, and the depressed section, if you will. Try not to get depressed, double entendre with worry stone or worry coin or worry disc, but that's the area I guess that you could rub, you know, or you know, use that for holding a mini shot or a mini micro shot of something. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and burn this one down over time, and we'll kind of monitor ash acquisition and burn rate. And again, it's got a very, very smooth draw right now, so not noticing anything unusual or bad karma about the way that this cigar was made. So here we go, and be back in a bit. We are now at approximately the 2-inch mark of ash, nice healthy ash. You can see it's been a relatively even burn on this, and the draw continues to be quite smooth. Let's see if we can get a little extra coming out of, yeah, see, out of the V cut there. And try to keep us focused. Yeah, as you can see, draw seems to be consistent. The ash is large and firm. And I have noticed, in addition to just a slight uneven burn, which frankly for me is just not all that terribly unusual, and probably more prone with a either a barber pole wrap, or in this case I'm just going to call it again a Damascus wrap. I've also noticed that as the wrapper heats up, it begins to separate just a bit, depending on, you know, where it's at. And you know, heck, this is a custom handmade, or I guess a custom handmade hand-rolled cigar. So, you know, with all of that taken into consideration, maintaining a fine ash. And I've allowed this to rest 3 times now for between probably 2 to 4 minutes, without the need for a relight or, you know, any additional flame. Then keeping it, you know, as most of us know, you want to be able to comfortably hold and touch the cigar right behind where the tobacco is burning. And that, I've always been told, was originally told, that that is a good method to determine if you're smoking too hot. Of course, if you're smoking too cool, it'll just go out. But it's even maintained that original tip, that original torpedo type tip. And again, I may be using the wrong technical terms, so either forgive me or don't forgive me, kind of moot for the most part. I have been smoking it a bit, quite a bit, taking quite a bit of puffs, holding it from time to time between my teeth, and so it is a bit damp there. All of that said, that's not coming apart very much. That is pretty consistent with the way it started off, and again, I've allowed it to rest from time to time. and it's just been a real pleasant, very delightful smoke so far. I did go back and strengthen up the coffee because it was not quite where I was expecting it to be. It was a little lighter than I had hoped. And so with all of that said, we're going to continue to indulge this tip or test in progress on Mr. Cohen's King Solomon cigar from the House of Lucky Cigars. Let's see if we can get that to scroll. A little bit of outside glare and a little bit of gusty winds here. A little here and there, nothing too significant, hopefully. And we'll just continue on and press on to endeavor to persevere. One last thought. Again, the little automatic from Cast On. I think it's Cast On Designs. He does have several companies. He has a rocket, something Cast On Rockets, or I think it's the initials DRD Gear, I believe, is where you could probably pick one of these up. Although I think that these were a limited run, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, other than this texture, which actually I find kind of, fun and interesting. It's a nice toy, kind of something to just keep with you. And, obviously, it's a serious blade. It's incredible. It's very, very sharp, very razor-like. It just is picking up, I think I'm removing part of my fingerprints here. But anyhow, it's just a real pleasant little device, not intimidating by any stretch of the imagination, and again, just a nice little cutting tool to keep around, and it's not very invasive looking, not very intimidating looking, except for the scowl on my friend there, or this one. And you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, I think he might be a snapping turtle, just not too sure, or just a character, like most of us are. So. All that be known and be had, and salute, and we'll continue on. Well, it's time to go ahead and add, literally within 30 seconds of that little pause, I lost my ash, catastrophic ash failure. So, all of that said, and I would imagine maybe that has something to do with our Damascus wrap. Or the way I'm smoking it, or just the fates as they will spin a deck of cards out to us from time to time. But we'll continue on. Plus, we're getting pretty darn close to the point where I normally remove my wrapper so I don't burn it. And so it's getting to the point where I was going to try to remove that without causing any ash failure. But we'll again continue on. Burning down a bit, you can tell that we've only gone, maybe half of an inch from last report, so to speak. And I just wanted to point out, you can see the separation of that Damascus wrapper. So these are, I've been trying to determine how the wrapper is placed on, and it looks like once they have the binder in place, they just do strips, in a diagonal fashion. To create the wrapper. So this is done, I would imagine at least between 3 and 5 or 6 different applications of individual strips of wrapper to complete the wrapper process. At first I thought perhaps it was a Maduro wrapper with lighter strips on top, but it does appear that even that Maduro, I don't think that there's a Maduro underlay, a full wrapper. Maybe there is. Actually, there probably is a Maduro under wrapper there with strips applied, but including the lighter natural color and the darker Maduro leaf in strip format to create this very interesting Damascus pattern. Still no relights. It's continued to burn pretty smoothly for me. And in spite of that wrapper issue, the wrapper issue being the strips that have been applied, and we can see here's a little more detail on, just perhaps how that was applied. In any event, still burning smoothly. The draw is still very good. as you can see. Played around a little bit with the copper disc. Still, what me worry, but it's from a tactile perspective, it's it's an interesting little design. A phenomenal little design, actually. Don't know if, there we go. So I don't know if something I would necessarily want to carry all the time, but definitely a nice little entertaining piece. And of course, Cast On provides these higher end pieces in a plastic lockable case. The titanium lighter, when I played it with it from time to time, it continues to light every light. Of course, that is the insert. Doesn't really speak to the body, the case itself, but the titanium case, made again by our friends at PDW. That was a very nice treat to realize that Cast On had sourced these and then left their mark in place and then worked around it for our little warrior with riding the waves of uncertainty, as I think we all kind of get, as well as his rocket logo in each, or two corners of each piece. But the design is consistent all the way around, and I just really enjoy this. Again, from a tactile perspective, it's interesting to hold and to manipulate. And I guess this could also be a tip in progress of I think that's the Z-Lighter insert, which is butane, which of course we all prefer when we're dealing with our cigars. So I'm going to continue to burn this one, getting a slight uneven burn on the foot of the cigar, but otherwise just moving right along with the day. Thinking that we might just take a quick comparison between where we are now. We're getting close to the time when I would personally remove the wrapper again. We're getting close to about, well, depending on where we are on the stick, anywhere from approximately half of an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch or so close to the wrapper, and about ready to remove it. But I thought I would take this out to compare to the original. Picked up a little bit of that Damascus between my teeth, and so here we are, the original compared, original size compared to where we are now, and just a nice. Why don't you try and count how many times I've said nice? Closer examination of this Damascus wrap on the King Solomon. Interesting band. And completely closed off tip there. Imagine that this is a bit more labor intensive than your typical hand-rolled cigar. Again, just a little comparison there on where we are so far. You can tell this is a good 1 hour smoke, 1.5 hour smoke, depending on how fast you're puffing and how many breaks you take for more coffee or more beverage or conversation. I took a little musical interlude there for a while just to enjoy these, but again, just a very, very, very pleasant smoke, and the flavor I'm no expert on flavor profiles. It's very smooth. It's not become harsh at this point whatsoever. Um, Relatively mild, actually, to my taste. Not a real strong, robust smoke. Very, very mild, and it has that classy Damascus appearance to it as well. You can see the draw is still pretty smooth, and there we have some of the peeling off of the Damascus as it heats. Let's go ahead and the wrapper itself, as that heats up, I found that it's usually easier to just peel it off gradually. Well, now that's interesting. The wrapper, okay, I thought it almost matched with the layering of that one Damascus stripe, but that may be consistent with how they do the wrapper. Under the wrapper, nothing unusual. Peeling the wrapper off didn't create any disruption of, that is, peeling the band off did not create any disruption of the Damascus wrapper that I can tell. And we have probably a vein from the original leaf that was used on this piece here. And we'll just again continue down to where we normally go, where it's burned all the way down until you'll need a holder of some kind. I don't have my spike that we had acquired about a year ago, so I don't have that to spike the end and continue smoking, but I'll just continue on the way I normally would, just gripping it until I can't hold it anymore. It's been probably about 15 minutes or so, and just to show you where we are on this one, I had let it rest a little too long, and therefore the flame extinguished. The ash, the hot part, had gone out. Hadn't quite cooled too much, but it did require a relight, and so that's my first relight. And that's not because of draw or anything else. It's because I literally just let it rest a little too long, and had to do the first relight for this cigar, for this King Solomon. And still moving along quite well. It also, I lost the ash as I was trying to light around the exterior from the wrapper in, and I think that's kind of common as well on a relight. So, first relight of this cigar, and doing quite well. I think we'll be able to retire this one out in about another 15-20 minutes. However, and I may just let the, so to speak, retire the test in progress without coming back onto video for it. You'll just have to take my word for it. We'll see. Well, now, after that after the relight, I've noticed that the taste and flavor profile, if you will, is a bit more robust, a little more full. That may be because, obviously, we're well past the halfway point on the King Solomon. Could also perhaps have something to do with the relight. But I think for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and retire this test in progress, although I will finish this one out. And highly recommended smoke, especially for a special occasion, gifting, etc. And can't go wrong with the House of Lucky Cigar King Solomon. Salute and safe travels and lucky sunsets, if you will. Take care.